Hello everybody and welcome to my cave. The last months were quite turbulent for me. I've been moving to another country, including many trips back and forth for apartment hunting and moving things over, which is a terribly tedious process at times. You might know that. Totally worth it though. Me and my partner ended up finding a wonderful place for us, and once things have calmed down a little bit, I actually intend to make a little bit of something like a welcome tour in our new home. I'm really happy how everything turned out and how it's coming together. Now, one of the biggest hurdles that kept me up for weeks, seriously, was getting my setup for audio recording back to a point where I'm satisfied with it. Right now, you're hearing the result of a long struggle to get to an audio quality that can match the one I had before. See, basically since the Soul Reaver video, and I know that because I'm still using the audio filter settings from that video, I was at the end of a long road of trial, error, and constant improvement over time when it comes to audio improvement since I started making videos. I gradually got better equipment, including the microphone of my dreams, and at some point I moved the recording place completely into my little walk-in closet at my old home, while adding lots of audio foam to the walls and ceilings. I basically ended up having my own little sound booth at home. Now, as I said, I just moved to a new place, and you know how it is when the rooms are completely empty, they sound like a bathroom. And yeah, this place has a nice extra bedroom that was planned to become my office from the beginning. And so I brought as much audio foam that I could fit in my car when moving and started to set everything up. But, well, the disappointing moment for me, you can imagine in a room that's completely blank, the recordings, sounded like a bathroom, even with a couple of audio foam mats at the wall. Terrible reverberation, and suddenly the audio felt worse than even way back when I started. At least that's how it felt to me. So I tried around with so many different homebrew solutions I can come up with without having to spend an endless amount of money and fast. And yeah, this right now is what I arrived with. I'm really happy with the current sound. I'm dispersing a lot of the audio reflections with moving the large wardrobe that the previous tenants left here in the middle of the room, and with using square audio foam pads attached with duct tape to lighting poles around the recording corner and all across the room basically. We also moved clothing racks in the room to put as much fabric in here and to further reduce the room reverberation and echo. Lastly, I only now realized that my computer in the last 2 years got significantly louder. Not so loud that it would be annoying to work on it, but loud enough to create a very uncomfortable background noise when recording with a tower in the same room. So I pretty much had to add that extra step too of always recording on the laptop, of always turning off my computer while recording, and then transferring this recording to the main computer and run it through the sequencer with all the filters and settings because the sequencer software is only licensed for the main computer. And yeah, it's been a journey. But here we are, and this is the first recording in my new home office, and at this point I'm really happy with it. And I gotta say, a lot of anxiety fell off my shoulders today when I hit this point. Now, next to all the moving and setting up, I've also tried to spend every free minute I had on writing and producing content as good as I can. And so far, it's doing great actually. I've got lots in store for the weeks to come. And in addition to that, I actually still managed to find some time to play the one or the other game in my free time. And today, I want to talk briefly about a couple of them and why I ended up surprisingly enjoying these particular games more than I would have thought. I mean, that's what surprisingly entails, right? Anyway, so one of the first surprises was my re-entry into visual novels by starting and completely finishing 999. And no, that's not a game about German virgins, it's the first entry in the Nonary Games franchise. My girlfriend told me a while ago to definitely give it a try, lent me her Nintendo DS, but I didn't end up playing super far because I felt that many things were handled suboptimally, especially in controls. The thing that threw me off the most was the over-tutorialization, meaning that the game wouldn't remember if it already explained something to you before and then keeps doing it over and over again. And since visual novels often tend to have this anime-typical over-explanation sickness all the time anyway, you can guess how frustrating it can be when the game literally keeps explaining to you how to press buttons on a number keypad over and over again. But It was on sale in the PSN store for PS4 not too long ago, and I thought I'd give it a try in the remastered version, and I ended up enjoying this game a lot. It had a way better flow. It kept both me and my partner entertained until the very end. If you've never heard about it, you basically wake up in a Saw-like scenario, meaning you find yourself out of nowhere, waking up in a room exposed to a life-threatening logic puzzle without having any idea how you got there, and you have to puzzle your way out of this pickle. It's separated in puzzle parts where you move around rooms and have to solve little logic puzzles, and visual novel parts where you talk and interact with 8 different people that are also stuck on this ship together with you, and try to find out a way together with them. All of it is, just like in Saw, orchestrated by one mastermind behind it, and over time you try to figure out what's going on and who's really on your side. It gets pretty intense at times, and depending on your choices, you will end up with drastically different endings. And I particularly loved how it employed real-world science to spin a slightly mystery, slightly science fiction narrative, and honestly, the real, true ending at the end of all endings, for which you require information of every other ending before, concludes in a surprisingly brilliant kicker that is totally worth playing through all of them. So if you found this interesting, just give it a go. I really recommend it. Next up is, it's an Assassin's Creed, its Origins. I gotta admit that after Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which I really liked at the time, it just felt like the same over and over and over and over again. I just needed a break. Assassin's Creed fatigue, you could call it. So I passed a couple of iterations until even Ubisoft realized that they needed to give it a rest and skip on the formerly yearly release cycle, and it was a great choice, both for me and Ubisoft. Origins really ended up surprising me. I was wary of getting just as dreary of the game as before, doing the same old again, but this game really feels different. It feels like a selection of most of the stuff that's enjoyable about the series, but with much of the dead weight the series is known for cut away. Finally, the combat is somewhat challenging and skill-based. In the setting of ancient Egypt, during the rise of Cleopatra with Greeks and Romans influencing the country's culture and heritage, it's just a really blissful experience so far. I'm about 20 hours in and I'm always looking forward to scavenging more, and even the game's protagonist managed to really grow on me. In addition to that, my personal highlight is really I call it the tourist mode, where you explore ancient Egypt without any game challenges, combat, quests or the likes, but where you really can just go on a pure tour of exploration with guided, narrated tours written by a team of enthusiastic Egyptologists that teach you interesting historic trivia about the places you can visit and explore in the game. Remember back in school, when in history class the teacher would instead show a movie about a certain time period or something? Everybody loved watching a movie, mostly because it meant that you could chill out and didn't really need to pay that much attention in class, but it was also a wonderful deviation from the typical school everyday rhythm. And this feature, if you have a progressive teacher, totally legitimizes Origins as a game to be shown in classes. It is interactive, it's gorgeous, and it's learning full of amazingly researched information. They really had a large team of historians to work on this, on the game and on this mode. And it's both fun and absolutely jaw-dropping to look at. So yeah, this game is probably my favorite Assassin's Creed so far. And lastly for today, I've been playing Icewind Dale. Yes, I went back to the old Infinity games. Now, I gotta say, I love playing them even though I've never been a big fan of their pausable real-time nature. That's my personal opinion. Many people really like it. I personally see it as a somewhat unpleasant side effect of Diablo being so damn popular at the time before Baldur's Gate came out, and that Black Isle decided to make it real time as well, because that's what was selling at the time. It does kind of work with the D&D rule set, but I always felt that the thing that I personally enjoy so much about tabletop, meaning the deliberate choice of actions during my turn and the casting of die, this excitement turn by turn where you have a grasp on what precisely happens at every moment of the battle, and then being translated into actual fantasy imagery in your head, narrated in slow motion. With pausable real-time, this always turns into a gigantic pulp of real-time strategy with a D&D rule set on top. And that's okay, but I never really liked it. My dream was always to get all those games from back in the day that I loved so much, like Baldur's Gate, Planescape Torment, and so on, in turn-based. That would be lovely. But yeah, Icewind Dale. The reason why this was such a bliss to play was that I kind of missed out on it back in the day. And that's a mini personal anecdote. Because for some reason, I always thought that this game was ridiculously, masochistically difficult, which it is really not. Not when you just know a tiny bit about D&D and its rule set and everything. At the time when I played it, I had zero D&D experience. The only tabletop RPGs that I had played at the time were The Black Eye and Vampire the Masquerade. And in addition to that, I got the game precisely during a massive Diablo phase I was having at the time, and without looking too much into it, I expected and hoped that Icewind Dale would be kind of more of the same flavor. It was advertised as that, and in my defense, I didn't have internet at the time and knew no one who played it at the time. So you can imagine what I did. I basically had no idea of party generation and proper equipment and rushed everything because I was overwhelmed by so many stats that I had no way of reading up on, and just used my hastily assembled party's starting weapons, which were all long stays, which is totally terrible for almost every class. And without proper armor and everything, I approached the first enemies, which were just a bunch of low-level goblins without looking into proper equipment at all. And yeah, my entire team got slaughtered by a handful of tutorial enemies. The mass of D&D related information and the lack of real information about it made me uninstall the game in frustration after an hour, throw it in the corner and save it in my mind as this RPG for real masochists. Now, it was my first Infinity Engine game at the time, and I played others after that, and quickly got behind the idea that I was probably wrong about Icewind Dale, but I never got around to playing it again, until I was suddenly in a new apartment without internet or even my computer attached for a lack of desk in the beginning. The only thing I had was an iPad, and luckily Beamdog's remaster of the game for the iPad. And it turned out that these games are really nice to play on a tablet. Not so much on a phone though, because it's just way too finicky to control. And in the end, happy end, I ended up really loving Icewind Dale the way it should be enjoyed. A numbers cruncher's paradise, atmospheric and challenging, but far from impossible. The story is not very deep, it doesn't litter you with side quests, and yeah, all in all, it's like playing a decent Tolkien adventure-esque D&D campaign without too many mind blows, and also, sadly, without the amazing party member conversations and interactions and side quests from other Black Isle titles. Well, what am I saying here? It's a great classic, really worth picking up if you're into classic RPGs and have never played it, and if you're a veteran, in my opinion, that's the biggest win of the Enhanced Edition. Not just this one, but of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 and Planescape Torment, that it's playable on the couch on a tablet, really comfortably. To me, it almost feels like I enjoy them even more now than how I used to, locked away in my room on my computer, brooding solitude. But alright, that's it for today's Cave Ramble. I hope it was a little bit entertaining and I could keep you up to speed, and I hope you might have even found a nice recommendation you might want to follow up on. So, thank you for your support on Patreon, and until next time, ta-ta!